There is, of course, a very big issue over transgender rights that is coming up as the government has an ongoing consultation about changes to the law in terms of the rights of people who are trans. Now, I think we'll all agree we want people who are trans to be treated with respect and to have the equal rights as everyone else. However, there's a major concern, and we discussed it on the show many times, that increasing trans rights can actually be hurting the rights of others, in particular women and girls, because under the proposed law proposed by this government, and again, this absolutely blows my mind. People think this is appropriate. Anybody at any time can self-identify as a man or a woman. And that means that even those who are sex offenders in prison can self-identify as a woman. They don't need to have to go through an operation. Don't even have to take any medication or even be seen by a doctor. They can simply say, no, I believe I am a woman. At that point, of course, get transferred to a female jail. Now, we've also seen, you all have noticed, lots more unisex toilets and unisex changing rooms coming up because of the need by lots of companies, they feel, not to offend people who are trans, who maybe don't want to choose between going in a male or a female changing room or toilet. Well, there are added problems with that, as emerged over the weekend. Unisex changing rooms are quite simply more dangerous for women and girls than single-sex facilities. Let's talk about this with Dr. Nicola Williams, who's from Fair Play for Women, a campaign group, has actually been campaigning particularly over this weekend, trying to raise public awareness of this change in the law. Dr. Nicola Williams, thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Now, it's interesting, new research from the Sunday Times. They looked at reported sexual assaults, harassment and voyeurism in public swimming pools and sports centres, in the changing rooms, in the loos, particularly where they have unisex facilities. And what they discovered, though, even though vast majority of facilities in these sports centres and swimming pools are actually single sex, the vast majority of reported sexual assaults, almost 90%, happened when they were unisex facilities, which suggests very clearly that women and girls are more at risk when they're in a changing room with men.
Yeah, it's obvious, isn't it?
Well, I have to say, it does seem like a statement of the obvious, but apparently this is not something that the powers that be, either in the government or in local council authorities, that seem to recognise.
Exactly. I mean, it's not recognised, but it's common sense. You allow males into female changing rooms and bad stuff happens to women. I mean, that's exactly why single-sex spaces were created in the first place. So,
but I mean, my husband doesn't want to go into a changing room where there's going to be women and little girls getting changed. I mean, it's different when you go to, say, some leisure centres, they have, say, a family changing section. So you go in as a family and you all change in the same big cubicle. That's one thing. But I mean, I'm not a particularly sort of shy and retiring type, but I don't want to get changed in front of a man, and a man doesn't want to see me get changed, frankly, at the age of 50. And I darn well don't want my 11-year-old getting changed in front of a man that she isn't her father. So this is the issue. Who in their right mind thought this was what people wanted and that it would make people safe?
Well, they haven't thought about the women that are actually using these facilities. I mean, it's not women that are asking for them, is it? You've got to look at who these facilities serve. These facilities are cheaper to build and it cuts staff costs. But, I mean, the obvious reason is because this is a really easy way to cater for trans people because it avoids the problem. It means organisations who otherwise would be unsure how to tackle which males to allow in or not. I mean, they just have opened it up and let all of them in, so it's not their problem anymore. But that pushes the problem onto women.
But the reality, this isn't something that trans people have been calling for. It's trans activists who've been making a loud noise, and we saw a case of a man. Again, okay, he can call himself a woman as much as he wants. He's not had an operation, never taken a drug of any sort, and he's simply putting on a dress. He's a man in a dress, not a trans woman, as far as I'm concerned. And he arrived at a Topshop women's changing room and insisted that he should be allowed to go in. And when he was refused entry, he insisted that he'd been discriminated against. Topshop, this is a few months ago, then announced, oh, well, we're going to make all our changing rooms unisex. And I said, well, at that point, my 11-year-old is no longer shopping in your store then. That's the end of the matter for me. The reality is, I mean, no one has thought this through. This is sort of a political activism by a very small group, my guess is, are totally unrepresentative of trans people in this country, who are not political activists. They're simply people trying to go about living their lives with self-respect and just want other people to treat them with respect. And yet we are seeing this situation where the government is sort of playing along with the madness of, anyone can just say they're a man or a woman at any time and everyone else has to play along with that.
Well, it sounds progressive, doesn't it, to have gender neutral or self-identification. I mean, but it's not progressive, is it? I mean, gender neutral means mixed sex. So, the government have been hoodwinked, really, by these really powerful transgender lobby groups.
But how are they powerful, though? Is it just that is their power simply, and if you don't agree, and I've had this online, and I see you have it online, if you make controversial statements that just wearing a dress doesn't make you a woman, you're then called a transphobe. I mean, and then people, it's almost, that's the T word has almost become as bad as the R word, calling someone a racist or calling someone a transphobe. These are terrible things. Well,
these groups have become powerful because they've got a lot of funding. They are on the media a lot. They get a lot of airtime. I mean, I struggle to get on the media to talk about the other side of this. But the BBC, other big media organisations, have so much airtime for transgender people to explain what they want. But it's very difficult for a woman to be able to stand up and say, well, actually, I think that might affect us. We need to talk about that. So it's so unbalanced. But something like these gender-neutral changing rooms, it's really important because, I mean, the stuff that goes on, I mean, now with mobile phones, they go under the gap at the bottom of cubicles. There's secret cameras. You can get tiny secret cameras now. And all this stuff ends up on porn sites. I mean, women should be absolutely...
As a mum, I'm already just getting more and more anxious. I mean, again, I want I've got to say, a daughter just starting year 7 tomorrow. I want her to have more freedom. Yeah, go off to the swimming pool with your mates and things. Now, I would be genuinely worried, but I want to know that she's in a space that is female only when she's vulnerable.
Yep, and it doesn't, it's even at school when she'll go to school. A lot of schools are turning their toilets into gender neutral. And what we're finding
as if teenage girls want to be in the same toilets as teenage boys, or vice versa, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, girls are not drinking all day, so they don't have to use the toilets. If they're on their period, they don't want to be unwrapping a sanitary towel in a cubicle with a boy next to it. I mean, the embarrassment, it's just not fair on girls that what we're allowing to happen.
But there is this consultation that is going on, isn't there? And this government, I think a lot of people are surprised that it's a Conservative government doing this. They are entrenching these rights effectively in law. What can people do?
Well, so there's a consultation. We've got 6 weeks left to tell the government what we think about this. Because if this law changes, all of these problems that we're seeing now will just basically be cemented into law, and we'll just see it happening everywhere. So, we're only seeing a few gender-neutral changing rooms now, but it will just be picked up by all the organisations if the law, is ratified like this with the government. So we're urging people to come to our website, fairplayforwomen.com. We've got information and guidance on how to fill in this consultation. And it's really important that people do take the time and look, because this affects everyone in society. It affects women, obviously, but it affects our children too, because the type of message we're giving children is that we as adults think that you can actually change sex and that it is okay to, put yourself on a lifelong course of medication, and it's not. So we have to be really careful here. And we started a campaign this week to raise public awareness, because so few people in the public know about this. So it's been great. This weekend we've had over 100 women, brave women, volunteering to go out on the streets and hand out leaflets. We've had hundreds more asking us this weekend, can we join? And I think the impression that women have been coming back with is actually when they do speak to other people on the streets, they all agree. So where we always get this backlash on social media and trans activists,
people in the real world feel differently.
People know.
Yeah, Dr. Nicola Williams, lovely to speak to you. She's from Fair Play for Women. Let me briefly bring in Neil Wallace, Sue Atkins. Your face throughout that. This is the thing. I'm sure that all three of us, and I'd like to think everyone listening, I'm absolutely in favour of trans people being treated with respect, getting access to the treatment they need. Absolutely, but that doesn't mean we open up spaces everything to gender neutrality, do we?
No, I'm absolutely horrified by it, and I want to go onto that website and sign a petition or do something, or use my influence in the way I tweet and stuff to raise awareness of this.
Most people don't even know this happening. We talk about this regularly on my show because I think it's so important.
It is so important, and my daughter's 23, but I don't want her going in either, to a unisex changing room.
But Neil, you're a man. You don't want someone's kid in the same. I mean, it's uncomfortable for men.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
I have a partner, I have a daughter, I have a granddaughter. The idea absolutely outrages me. And it's yet another example of how the Westminster bubble, and the PC attitude decides what's going to happen.
But also how the Twitter activists decide things as opposed to ordinary voters.
Both of us, we're all active on Twitter. We'll probably get inundated now with hate.
They've given up. They've given up on me.
Well, they're still having a go at me quite
well. I'll hand out Neil's Twitter feed later.